I'm Zach Oat, Marketing Supervisor for Diamond Select Toys and Gentle Giant Limited.
So Zach, I think first and foremost, before we dive into like everything about Diamond Select and stuff like that, how did you get involved with the company? I'm assuming, looking at your background in our pre-tape discussion, that you're a huge fan of toys and collectibles, possibly before even working for Diamond Select.
Definitely. Right out of college, I got a job working for Toy Fair magazine. I had, a small toy collection at that time. And somewhere at that time, all of my childhood toys, G.I. Joe and Transformers, were in storage. But I'd started collecting in college again, and I got a job at Toy Fair as a copy editor, and I worked there for 8 years. Eventually, I made my way to editor, and then I went and did movie reviews for a little while. But I heard there was a job at Diamond Select Toys, and I knew all the guys there. A lot of the guys there. From my time at Toy Fair. So I applied and I got the job. They'd been without a marketing guy for a little while due to the recession, but they were looking to get back into it and get somebody out there promoting their stuff. So I got the job and I've been there for 11 years. So yeah, I was a toy geek as a kid, obviously like everybody, and I got back into it with Star Wars and Marvel in college, and I've always been into comic books, so that was kind of my re-entry back to the world of toys, along with the Star Wars prequels that got me back into toys too.
I never realized that you were on our side of the fence and you were a journalist for a while. That's really cool. Like, a lot of people either stay there or they end up going into PR or, like you said, marketing. It's really cool. You can go a lot of places after you've been a journalist.
Yeah, all I did was write about toys for 8 years, so nothing's really changed. I'm just not allowed to make fun of them as much as I used to. But yeah, it's a fun job, and we have so many different licenses that it's something new and different every day. We put out we pre-order like 12 or 13 new items every month between previews, catalog, and the Disney store, and exclusives for different places, and it all adds up, and we have like, including Gentle Giant Star Wars license, we have like 15 or 16 different licenses. So it's a lot to keep track of, but it's I never get bored.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like, growing up passionate about like all of the franchises and brands that Diamond Select is kind of partnered with now. I know the thing that got me that put Diamond Select on my radar is all the Marvel legends, or not legends, but the Select figures that you've done.
The Diamond Select figures, yeah.
Yeah, I have quite a few of them, and what I love about them is there's some weight to them. I have the Thanos that comes with the Lady Death figure and all that good stuff, and I have the Thing. The Thing is probably the heaviest figure I own. I feel like I could like hurt somebody with it. It's also like probably one of the best Thing figures I've seen like out there. Just in terms of detail and also posability.
Oh, great! Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, what's it like working with all of these big names, and like how involved are companies like Marvel and I guess it's all Disney now.
Marvel,
yeah.
Disney, DC, Warner Brothers. I mean, you even have some Sony IP in there, Ghostbuster stuff. You have a ton of licenses, like you said, a lot of IP. What are some of the challenges?
Yeah, they're all there. Everybody is pretty involved. Some of the smaller licensors, say Green Hornet, they're pretty cool with what we're trying to do. Some of the bigger companies, they want to have input into like the line plan. They want to know that the characters we're putting out align with what they're promoting at the time, and characters that they want to see out on the marketplace. So all of our Marvel Select figures are approved in terms of character choice by Marvel. It's it all makes sense. It all depends on what does well. We do look at what characters and licenses are performing well, whether we want to go to a series 2 of something like Tron or Black Hole, or if we want to continue making more Mortal Kombat dioramas, that sort of thing. But but the licensor has a lot of input into that, and they approve it every step of the way, obviously, from the line plan to the design, to the sculpt, to the paint, and then they want to get a sample when it's all ready. So the packaging, of course, they approve the packaging. So they're every step of the way they're letting us know what works for them and what doesn't. Most of the time they're pretty cool about letting us make cool stuff. It doesn't say we don't disagree about stuff every now and again, but usually it all works out.
Nice. Like I guess when you're deciding on stuff, are you sort of pitching them like, hey, we want to make a Wolverine bust, or are they coming to you and saying, hey, we want to put out a Wolverine?
I think sometimes they come to us and ask us if we'd be willing to do something for a certain license, certain movie, that sort of thing. We have been approached by companies in the past to make lines based on stuff. A lot of smaller companies are approach us pretty regularly about whether we'd be interested in making a toy line about something, and that's happened before, where we've been pitched on something by somebody and gone for it. But usually we pursue the licenses. We usually work up a list of characters that we'd like to do, and sometimes they'll come back to us and say, well, this character isn't as popular as this character, we think you should lead off with this character. I'm really excited about one license we have coming up that we haven't announced yet, but I was able to contribute a little bit to the line plan for the first couple Minimates box sets, and it's going to be a great line. I can't wait till it comes out. Until we're able to announce it, it should be hopefully San Diego.
Very nice. Speaking of San Diego, you have already announced quite the impressive lineup of SDCC exclusives ahead of that show. I have been drooling over the Cobra Kai figures in particular. I really like the box art for them.
Yeah, we're doing a 2-pack of them in their retro outfits, which is going to be a box set that opens up and has the two of them it's a commemorative box set for for their big match at the All Valley martial arts tournament, and then we're going to do 2 VHS packages of modern day Johnny and Daniel. So we're doing 4 VHS packages in all, but we've done a couple in the past. We did the Crow for Walmart, and we did a Tron for San Diego a year or 2 ago, and they both had a great response. So we got 4 more coming, and maybe we'll do some in the future as well. They're a lot of fun.
No, the box art for those is spectacular, especially Bruce Lee and the Karate Kid. Those franchises were very 80s, but John Wick never released on a VHS, but the art that you made is so perfect for it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun seeing that for the first time. I'm a big fan of John Wick, so anything that gets more John Wick figures out onto the marketplace is cool. It's going to be the same basic figure, but it's going to come with a cool a room key for the hotel, the Continental, and I think it'll come with a pistol and also a machine gun. So there's a lot of different there's a few different accessories in there, and I think the Bruce Lee comes with some nunchucks and some alternate hands, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, there'll be it's a smaller packaging for sure, but it's there's definitely gonna be some cool accessories in there. And John Wick is still going strong for us. We've put out a few figures, and we just put out our first gallery of a supporting character. We just put out Cash-In, played by Common, as a gallery diorama. So if that does well, maybe we can do some more supporting characters. I'd love to do oh gosh, I can't remember her name, Ruby Rose's character, which I always blank on her name, but that would be really great from the second movie.
You guys also have an Electra animated statue kind of for Comic-Con as well, and you have a zombie Deadpool, which is interesting because many years ago, pre-pandemic, I think I was talking to someone who used to work at General Giant, and they said that they weren't allowed to do heroes anymore in the zombie line, because you originally had Captain America, Spider-Man, Wolverine. You had a lot of I have them here: Captain America, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Magneto, Venom, and then at a certain point, you guys had to just focus on villains, which was Kingpin and Mysterio. You recently did Dr. Doom the year before that, and now you're doing Deadpool again. So are we returning to the roots of the Marvel Zombies hero bust with that model, or? I
think Marvel is pretty cool with that sort of stuff now. I think after a period of time where they didn't want to do that, I think they're bringing it back. but we'll have to see where that goes. I think Sabretooth and Magneto did pretty well for us, but obviously if we were to do more heroes, I think those would do really great. We did Cap, Hulk, and Spider-Man, but there's still plenty to make. Wolverine to go with Sabretooth would be really cool. I'm not 100% sure what the situation is with that, but it's certainly something that we've thought about doing more.
Let's see, one thing that I really appreciate about a lot of the statues that you make is that they're at a price point that's fairly reasonable if you're a collector on a budget. You know, I'm just curious, has technology just made things less expensive to produce in order to kind of make a product that's more accessible? Or like how have you guys been able to like kind of keep the cost down on some of these things?
We've always tried to, keep our product affordable. Lately some prices have been creeping up due to materials and freight costs, which are going up all over. But in terms of the actual cost of making something, practical sculpting versus digital, I don't think there's a ton of difference there. I think, in terms of how much we're paying the artists, it's about the same as it always has been, at least, commensurate with the time. But it certainly made it a lot easier just across the board. Being able to, if something needs to change, then we can tweak the head without having to worry about the rest of the body. If we need to resize something, it's an easy change to reprint it at a different size. Whereas if you have to resize a practical sculpture, you have to do it, from scratch, basically. But it's just easier. It's just easier, and that does save some work on, on maybe resculpting. We don't have to pay for that sort of thing. But it's definitely like night and day. We do still have some practical sculptors working for us. Gene St. Jean works practically for the most part. Claiborne Moore, I think, has just started to do some digital, but he's known for his practical work. And Patrick Piggott has done a lot of work for us. He's working on the new line for us, but he's known for doing our Star Trek and Jay and Silent Bob figures. And he's going to be working on our new line, the gallery dioramas we're doing for that. So I'm excited to see the final product.
Yeah, your gallery diorama line is very impressive because 15 years ago, there was no PVC statues were relatively kind of niche. Like I think there were some anime statues, like a lot of Japanese stuff were doing it, but like in America, it was poly resin and polystone resin and like these hard materials that made the statue look gorgeous. But man, was it expensive to do and was it fragile? That was the two big things. But these PVC diorama statues, I mean, I have cats. They've already broken 3 of my statues. They knock over the Spider-Man thing. It's fine. They're durable. It's durable and they're reasonably priced. So like the technology is finally caught up, I think. And like you said of this, it's just gotten better quality with materials that are easier to get, arguably more easier to get with not including the shortages. But yeah, it's just really impressive what these people can do with PVC that they couldn't do 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, the cost is definitely kept down by the material. When you're working with PVC versus resin, you do have to have a higher production run. Like with resin, you could do a line of 500 statues and it wouldn't be, you wouldn't blink at it. It wouldn't be an issue. But if you're making a PVC sculpture, you have to start thinking in the thousands or even the tens of thousands because you have to cut those steel molds. Luckily, when you're selling a PVC statue for $50 or $60, you get those orders. You get those, you get 10,000 people who want to order one. So, or at least, 10,000 retailers who want to order it. It's very helpful in getting, having that lower price point to increase orders, and I think ultimately it's more profitable in the long run. But it does require actually a significantly larger investment just to get those gallery dioramas up and running.
And you guys still use, and they still do the polystone resin and the resin. You guys have your Premier collection line. That's all resin and nice and very fragile. Looks gorgeous. It's much more expensive. That's because it's higher quality.
Yes. Those are definitely 3 to 4 times as expensive as a gallery, and that depends on the size and the complexity. We have some pieces that we sell for $400 to $500, like $350 for our Gentle Giant Mandalorian with Child on it in a jet with a jetpack flying into the sky. That's made out of resin. That's $350. But we could do the same thing at a smaller scale in PVC, and it's a $60 piece. So Some people really like resin. They really want something that's got some weight to it. But you know, if you are looking for something a little smaller and you want to get, you know, a foot into that statue collecting world, the gallery diorama actually, you know, is a good tool for that, because you can collect a lot of them and it won't break your budget.
I mean,
sorry, that came off like a commercial.
No, that's what I started out. I mean, bust. When I was buying them were $49.99 like retail. Maybe a nice one was $59.99. You know, statues were hundreds of dollars. I couldn't afford that, but that's how you start, right? You start little, and as you get older and you have adult money, you start making other superfluous purchases that you don't need.
You buy the toys your parents said hell no to.
Yeah,
that's what happens, and then you realize why your parents said hell no, because all of a sudden all your money's been spent on toys. And that's what being an adult has been like for me, basically. You know, one of the other things I really like one of my favorite statues that you guys have done is I love the Scotty Young inspired like cartoonish Marvel statues. And I'm just curious, how closely do you work with those artists when you're interpreting like their two-dimensional art? Like are some of them like really hands-on, and others are just like, yeah, I don't know, send Jack or whatever.
Scotty Young is a special case because we, you know, we know him and we send him new pieces every time they come out. And I've interviewed him in the past. He's a really cool guy. But you know, when we're developing the product and, you know, we pick the art that we want to, you know, sculpt, you know, that's all done through Marvel. Marvel approves it. Marvel says, you know, no, don't do this character, or no, you can't change this about the art. You have to keep it as accurate as possible. But other artists, you know, they'll reach out to us if they'll say, hey, I created that Iron Man armor for this book. I'd love to get a sample of it. And we'll always hook them up. And then, you know, so I met Charles Soule at Celebration this past weekend, and he wrote the story where where Boba Fett painted his armor black to participate in a fighting tournament, so nobody would recognize him. And we did a black variant of our Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett bust. And he was asking if we could get a copy of it. And so I'm going to be sending one to him just this week.
Okay, nice. Let's see. I'm kind of curious. Like, I'm sort of in awe of your background here. I'm just curious, do you have anything like that's particularly special to you personally, like that you keep in your office, like from any of the stuff you've worked on?
Stuff I've worked on, not really too much. I mean, you know, I love Minimates. I have a bunch of them on my shelf back there, and lately I've been getting a lot more involved in the production. You know, working with the designer, Barry Bradfield is a great guy, and the product manager, Robert Yee, who's an old friend. So I always keep some Minimates on hand, as long as I can keep them away from my kids, who take them all apart, mix them all up, which is the fun part of them, mixing them all up. But putting them back together is sometimes tricky if they lose all the parts. So I always keep some Minimates around for sure. I like taking pictures of them too out in the wild. But I have a lot of pieces that my friend Tim Bruckner worked on. He's another practical sculptor who's immensely talented. He did a lot of work for DC Direct. So I have a few of his pieces up here, some of which are like one of a kind, that he was nice enough to send me. But he's a great guy, and he has an amazing career. He's been working on products since the 5-inch Toy Biz days, and he's just his stuff. When you see, if you think of some of the better Toy Biz 5-inch figures, he probably sculpted them, because he's just amazing.
I feel like when I was younger, I was the target demographic for all these IP properties, and now I'm 36 and I'm still the target demographic for all these properties. Can you talk about like the evolution of that? I mean, there's something for everyone at Diamond Select Toys, whether it's Transformers, Gargoyles, or even the 90s animated X-Men. You run the gamut out of everything. Yeah,
it's the 90s stuff is certainly picking up. We're starting to do more with Power Rangers, Gargoyles, obviously Darkwing Duck. We're going to be doing some stuff. I'm lucky they're still doing some 80s stuff like G.I. Joe and Transformers, because that was where I was really at when I was a kid. All the 80s G.I. Joe and Transformers were my bag. So that's cool. We're gonna be doing some Jean-Claude Van Damme product, which I guess is kind of 90s into 2000s. But, you know, we still do 60s stuff like Green Hornet and Bruce Lee from the 60s and 70s. So There's a it's a pretty wide variety. We cast a wide net. And the Marvel stuff, you know, we're always trying to do different eras of Marvel. We have like a Thing statue just put out that's very classic, very Kirby-esque. And then we'll do like a classic Sabretooth from back in the 80s when he was, you know, looked a little different before Jim Lee gave him that famous redesign. So, you know, we're always looking at all eras of Marvel to come up with cool products for it. But, you know, we do love the modern stuff. We're working on an Elektra as Daredevil piece based on her recent run where she was taken over for Daredevil. So there's a lot of stuff in the works that is that's a mix. You know, some classic stuff, some old stuff, especially with Star Wars. Star Wars, we're going vintage. We go vintage all the time with our 12-inch jumbo figures. We're always doing figures that were originally made back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, but we're also looking at new Star Wars. Like I said, the Black Boba Fett, and obviously everything from the Mandalorian and Ahsoka.
You guys got to talk about your milestone line. These things are huge. I mean, they're probably one of the biggest things you guys have ever made. As Diamond Select Toys continues to grow, and if it does well, will we see more just larger scale stuff? I know other companies are making 1-to-1 scale Terminators and 1-to-1 scale C-3POs, but like you guys are on, like, based on what I'm seeing, you're well on your way there.
You know, we've done even bigger stuff in the past that we've kind of left behind. Like we made life-size Captain Kirk chairs. Gentle Giant did life-size jumbo figures of you know, like Darth Vader and Boba Fett and R2-D2. We actually have one R2-D2 left, and we bring it to our shows and set it up at the booth. It was there at Celebration this past weekend. But we've kind of gotten a little bit away from that. Actually, we've done a few Marvel pieces in that milestone scale. Orders on the last couple weren't so great, but you know, they run $500. So we did a couple Thanoses from the movies. We did a Thor, a couple Thors actually. We did a big Hulk from Ragnarok, and they're cool. They're really cool, but it's definitely a price range where there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people making $500 to $1,000 statues at that large scale. Not a lot of people doing the inexpensive stuff that we do, but there's a lot of people doing that high-end product. So, you know, we're competing with them, and, you know, some people are comparing the quality and saying, you know, our quality isn't as good, or whatever. So, but they're comparing us to, you know, $1,000 piece, and we're, you know, trying to get it done for 500, you know, but it's still very expensive, and it's an expensive product. So we do have that Galvatron coming up. We just put out some of those milestone Star Wars pieces. We do a lot of, you know, higher end Star Wars. Galvatron is going to be big. We're going to do a Optimus Primal from Beast Wars, Transformers Beast Wars. He's going to be really big. I mean, we're talking like, I think Galvatron is 16 inches tall, and he's got a really big planet base. And then I think the Optimus Primal is probably about that tall too.
That's great. You're a big Beast Wars fan, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I love Beast Wars. It's one of my favorite shows like of all time. I love Beast Wars so much. Every single time there's a masterpiece released for the Predacons, I have to get it. So I have Black Arachnia and Megatron, and I need Inferno and all those other ones. So I need the other ones. Pterosaur.
You gotta get them all.
Yeah, it's just it's like a disease. You just need to collect them all. Need it.
I think we're gonna do a Megatron to go with a Beast Wars Megatron to go with Optimus.
Oh, he's so cool.
Oh, nice, very nice. One thing I'm really curious about, you know, the last couple of years with the pandemic and all the insanity going on in the world, you know, we've spoken to a lot of people who have talked about how just, you know, getting things from point A to point B has been extremely difficult. And then I think, you know, another challenge that you guys have most likely faced is just like, so much stuff happens at conventions and things like that. There's so many like products that get announced and revealed. Like, what have the last few years sort of been like for Diamond Select, sort of riding the waves of all the insanity?
The shipping is definitely a problem. For a while, it was hard to get a hold of containers to ship the product to the U.S. in, because so many containers were sitting off the coast of North Los Angeles waiting to get unloaded, and so many containers were in Los Angeles, and they weren't taking the time to put them back on the boats. So there was actually a shortage of containers over in China, and that led to prices on containers going up. It led to lack of availability, and So that added to some expense to our products, which we try not to carry over to the selling price, but it certainly does hurt the bottom line. There were certain outbreaks in China that led to certain factories being closed, and so production slowed down then too. So there's a lot of product that we're still shipping out that we might have done pre-orders for a year ago, whereas normally we'd have like a 6-month turnaround, 6 to 8 month turnaround. So here we're getting to like a year on some products, and it's frustrating, but it's it's understandable. In terms of the conventions, it's certainly, we were going to do Emerald City Comic Con, but it got canceled in early 2020. So the last show we did was New York Toy Fair in February of 2020. And then we did New York Comic Con in fall of 2021, just this past year. So there's a good year and a half gap there. We weren't doing any shows. But we tried to, reveal stuff as we went. We would do our own Toy Fair event in the beginning part of the year in 2021, and also this past year, because there wasn't a Toy Fair this year either. They've started to reschedule the Toy Fair as a September event instead of a February event, which is helpful because then you don't get snow drifts and get stuck in the snow going to Toy Fair, and you don't miss Valentine's Day. That's the other thing that was always bad about Toy Fair. But they're going to start doing it in September, so I don't even think it's this September. I think it's next September. So there's going to be a long period of time without a Toy Fair. So we'll probably do another remote Toy Fair next year. And we've done remote San Diego's too the last 2 years. So, we try to reveal cool stuff, but it doesn't hurt us too much because we reveal cool stuff every month, really. The previews catalog comes out, beginning of every month or end of every month for the next month. So around the 20th or 22nd of each month, we put out, a whole bunch of new items. And I try to do, I try to put them in front of as many people as possible, through first looks with different sites. And it makes it a little bit harder, but it all depends on how much value you think there is in going to a live show and having people see your product on the floor. I think there's a lot of value. Star Wars Celebration, we expose our product to a lot of people who didn't really know about us. So that's always good to show your product to people who are just there and don't know to look for you. We have really good placement at San Diego, so it's a very busy thoroughfare, and we get to show off to a lot of people. But we're trying to make the best of it, and it looks like things are going back to normal, so we'll be back to a normal San Diego this year.
Yeah, getting the news out there is imperative. I mean, I can't say, Blake and I both missed out on a Transformers Dinobot run because I didn't even know they existed.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even realize they released it. And him and I were in the news all day, and sometimes you just miss it, because there's so much happening. And it's definitely a challenge, but you're right. It's invaluable to go to events or even have your own little preview events online where you're showing people, here's the new Marvel Legends figures, here's the new, Cobra Kai stuff, just getting the word out there saying this stuff is coming to get people excited about it, because you have so much stuff. I can't imagine how you cover all of it all the time.
Yeah, and there is so much stuff coming out, and also it's that's coupled with such a spike in collecting. So even though there is a lot more product coming out, it's all disappearing off the shelves a lot faster. So it is hard to keep up with all the releases if you're not even seeing them on the shelf. If you go into the store and there's empty pegs, because you came in an hour too late, then it's definitely, I imagine it's hard to keep up with stuff. We aren't in the big retailers, we're in smaller retailers. I think the biggest retailers we're in right now are, well, it used to be the Disney store, but now it's just shopdisney.com. So that's convenient for collectors to pick up stuff. We have had a few things in Walmart, and I believe a lot of them did sell out, like that Pro VHS that I was talking about. I think those were hard to find for a while. I think they started showing up a little bit more lately. And then we used to be in Walgreens pretty heavily, but now we still have a product in Hot Topic, I believe, and Box Lunch. Newberry Comics is a pretty small chain, but we just got one in our local mall, and they carry a lot of our stuff.
Well, that's awesome, Zach. But what else can you tell us? Comic-Con's right around the corner. About a little over a month out. What can we expect in the future for Diamonds Like Toys? Will you guys be doing more showcases online, more events? What's the next big event other than Comic-Con? What's after that?
After Comic-Con, I guess it's New York Comic-Con in October. And then after that, it'll be probably the next Star Wars celebration, because there won't be a New York Toy Fair in February. So the next celebration is in April, I think. I think they announced it's in London. So I think we're going to do that, but we'll have to see. And then after that, it's another San Diego. So yeah, it's we only do about 3 shows a year. 4 if you count New York Toy Fair. Yeah, San Diego should be a lot of fun, a lot of new reveals. We're gonna have some new Marvel Select figures there, including Apocalypse, which we announced a while back. We're gonna have the next couple waves of GI Joe Minimates. We're gonna have the new license, which is very mainstream, and I'm excited for it to be announced because it's not like anything we've ever done before. And I think it's gonna bring a lot of new fans to our company. You know, maybe there won't be a lot of crossover with other brands, but I think there'll be a big influx of people who are interested in our stuff.
Yep. Zach, thank you so much for your time today. You guys can check out all of their news at diamondselect.toys.com, their Twitter page, Facebook page. You can get a lot of information there. You guys even have a YouTube page as well, I believe.
Yeah, we post like turnarounds of some of the new products that's getting close to coming out, and we have a great reviewer, Cannonball X, who she unboxes a lot of stuff we put out. So yeah, definitely check out the YouTube page. We just posted a video of what happened at Celebration, what we showed there, yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. We have an Instagram page too, and but definitely check out the Gentle Giant Limited socials as well. We have a YouTube page that does some of the same content. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. That's primarily Star Wars stuff, but also a lot of Marvel stuff as well.
That's for more E6 content. Don't touch that dial. I'm going to coin that phrase this show. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more gaming and everything else nerd related here at E6.